Hey everyone, EnteR ChazmaN here. I've realized recently that I've been doing all of these pickup videos since the very inception of my channel, and I have yet to actually go through and actually show off my collection in general. Very recently with my PS3 collection, I actually hit a big milestone. I hit 100 games collected. Now don't get me wrong, PS3 is definitely not my largest game collection, but I kind of like the milestone framework for the video, so I figured what a better way to start. Now just to clarify, this video is not going to really take a deep dive into any of these games. I'm going to save that for reviews or streams. But I at least definitely wanted to pick out a handful of games out of my collection of PS3 games that I really want to play and stream and just talk about in general. Okay, so with all that, let's go ahead and start looking at a handful of games that I picked out that are most definitely on my must playlist for PS3 titles. In no particular order, let's go ahead and start out with Journey. I've always thought it to be a pretty interesting and pretty looking adventure game. I remember when the game first came out, it was talked very highly by everyone including media outlets, so this is one that has always intrigued me. Next up, I'll go with the game Binary Domain. This futuristic cover-based shooter has some very interesting mechanics. Couple that with the fact that the game was developed by Ryuga Gotoku Studios, which is the team behind the Yakuza series, and you can call me intrigued. Metal Gear Solid is one of my absolute favorite video game franchises, so it's with heavy shame that I admit I've never played Metal Gear Solid 4. Guns of the Patriots is of course a tactical espionage game, and I think this is one of those titles that it may be about time that I knock it off of my to-playlist. Rather than a single game, let's talk about an entire series I haven't played, the infamous games 1 and 2. From what I get, these kind of superhero games give the player some morality or karma-based decision-making, of which to me sounds appealing and very much like Fable or maybe Mass Effect. Let's move on to the game Dark Sector. An odd factoid I've found with this cover-based shooter is the main character's last name is Tenno, which is interesting because the developer of this game, Digital Extremes, would go on to develop the game Warframe. An interesting coincidence? I think not. Okay, don't hate me, I've never played the original The Last of Us on the PS3. I know, I can hear all of the comments now. It's a title I just never got around to playing, and I of course understand where it sits on the pantheon of PlayStation 3 games, so it's one I definitely feel like I need to play. Another notable PS3 series I've yet to touch is the Resistance games, Resistance 1, 2, and 3. Now I know absolutely nothing about these games, but I do remember when the first one came out, it was technically one of the PS3's first major console selling games. These as well were also developed by Insomniac Games, and that alone I think makes them worthy of a playthrough. Fracture. This shooter, from what I remember hearing way back in the days, is it's some sort of terrain altering or terraforming gameplay mechanics, which sounds pretty neat to me and also sounds very different from other games. So hopefully different equates to really fun when it comes to this title. Let's bring up Heavy Rain. This interactive sort of drama-based game I've heard very differing opinions on over the years. The game's developer Quantic Dream would go on to do very similar games such as Beyond Two Souls and Detroit Become Human. And the same thing goes for those games as well. There's a lot of wavering opinions, but for the most part all of them are quality, so I'm intrigued. Silent Hill Downpour. I absolutely love survival horror video games, but if you didn't know, that's not necessarily something I've always been into, so unfortunately, sadly, I've never played a Silent Hill video game. Although, I'm not quite sure if Silent Hill Downpour is where I want to say my Silent Hill journey began, but it's definitely a series I want to begin to broach. Uncharted, yeah. Another series that passed me by, but I do remember at least playing the very first game, and by no means was I blown away by anything within that game. This of course would lead me to avoid playing 2 and 3, of which from the sounds of it sounds like was a really bad idea because all I hear are people who say great things about them. Here is Dead to Rights Retribution. Again, this game comes from another series that I really don't know much about. All I know is that it's got a pretty sweet cover, and is that a doggo in the game? If you're telling me I can take that puppers and sick him on my enemies, I'm sold. Alright, let's talk God of War. Definitely one of the series I'm most shameful about never playing. I have played the very first game and I actually remember really enjoying it, but everything else within the franchise, I don't know, I've just bypassed. So I definitely foresee a full playthrough maybe in the future for all of these games. And the final game I handpicked out of my collection is Lollipop Chainsaw. This weird and wacky, very brightly colored game is one that I've always wanted to try out. I mean, who wouldn't want to act as a zombie-killing cheerleader? Come on, stop kidding yourselves. Looking at you, Carl. In terms of value, just for giggles, if you guys wanted to know my 3 most expensive PlayStation 3 games, they would be Silent Hill Downpour, which is retailing for about $50. Then we got Lollipop Chainsaw, which is retailing right now at about $64. And lastly, we've got Asura's Wrath, which is retailing for about $64 right now. Huh, would you look at that? That's weird. Where did that link come from up above leading to my Asura's Wrath review that I did a few years ago? That's strange. Well, there you go. That was a quick peek at my PS3 game collection. If you guys could, please do leave me some feedback as to whether you guys like this style of video or not. This is something new for me, but it is a form of video that I've been wanting to try out for a long time now. And I can most definitely promise you guys that the quality of this type of video will improve, because within the next month or two I have some big plans as to reworking my video game room. With that, I just want to say, as always guys, thank you so much for watching. I love you, please be safe, and I of course cannot wait to see you guys on the next video I drop, or just the next EnteR ChazmaN content in general. Thanks again, ChazmaN out. Hey now, I see you made it through the video and liked or even possibly loved it. Well, if you want to see any more additional content or you'd like to get into contact with me, consider checking out some of my social medias right here. And if you'd like to go above and beyond and want to support my channel monetarily, here is also a couple places where you can do so. And if nothing else, simply liking, sharing, and subscribing would make me the happiest ChazmaN on the planet.